Together we are but first coffee. Susie's just our host, but what matters most is we are a team. Together we are all safe here, and so are you. Among friends and mods we are safe. We talk about trauma, break down drama of life, death, happy or sad, even mad. We discuss it all here. Together we will thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Together we fight cults or fight addictions. If not with experience, with love, and we don't judge. Please understand, this is a safe place to land. Please understand, you're not alone. This is a safe place to land. Together we thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Because we are but first coffee, and Susie welcomes us all here. Together we are but first coffee, and Susie.
Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? I'm doing a lot better, feeling a lot better. Not completely over my Hashimoto's flare, but my voice is back and my hands aren't as swollen and I don't have a rash on my face, so I'm calling that good. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope your weather's good. We're actually 34 degrees right now, so that's pretty good. Means we were even above that earlier. Not a lot though. So I think we are going to be about 50 on the weekend. So I am not complaining. Thank you, Heat. Thank you so much. And yeah, you're going to have to post some new Lizzie pics in the mod chat. See how big she's getting. So I'll have to take some pictures of Mags and share too, because she's a big girl now. So Ben says, "Oh, with the solar activity. I guess solar stuff doesn't affect Hashimoto's." I don't know. I don't know. It's funny. Before I had my latest cancer, I'm fine now, but before this last cancer diagnosis, I blamed everything on Hashimoto's. And then all the time I was doing chemo, I blamed everything on chemo. And now that I'm not on chemo, I'm blaming everything on Hashimoto's. And I told my doctor that, and she said she was telling me to go along with Ben's comment that they really don't know a lot about it and what causes it to flare and kind of subside and come back and just the whole it's awful. But yeah, so I don't know, but she did say that the reason that I blamed everything on chemo when I was taking chemo and kind of forgot about the Hashimoto's was because my chemo lowered my immune system so that my immune system, which is what Hashimoto's does, it attacks your body. And my immune system was so low that my Hashimoto's couldn't attack my body. So yeah, what was going on was just chemo. And so now it's kind of flip-flopped. And so now as my immune system goes up, which for most people is, good thing, but for me it's like a negative. I honestly operate better with a lower immune system and just being extremely careful with who I'm around and where I go and what I do. So, a long big ghost story to say, yeah, Hashimoto sucks, but I kind of feel like telling these kind of things because I'm not the only one that has that or suffers from it or has chemo and all that. And so I figure people wonder. So so yeah. Yeah. Chemo is huge stuff and that I'm putting my body through. Absolutely. They honestly, my oncologist says they are going to take me as close as they can to killing me without killing me, is what they do with chemo. So I prefer somewhere like in a mid range, like, maybe I have just like a little bit of chemo, even if my hair fell out, which is something that they do. Sort of. My daughter, she fights Hashimoto's worse than me, and she also fights lupus, and they give her monthly, um, the word went out of my head, but it's almost there. But anyway, she gets a intravenous thing just like I do with chemo, but it's not chemo, but it's kind of like it, and it does lower her immune system and stuff. And so, yeah, it keeps her from having huge Hashimoto's or lupus flares. So it is strange, isn't it? How we will poison ourselves to get well, or poison ourselves one way to keep our bodies from attacking us in another way. It's crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy. Yeah. So anyway, hey everybody, I do see you coming in. I see some new names that I don't know, but good to see you. And please come back and see us other days too. Cindy, it is good to see you. I have managed to avoid chemo. Hold on, I'll put up here where I can see it better. I have managed to avoid chemo and radiation, but I'm due for my checkup scans. Me too. I'll fight it as long as I can because the cancer was in my cheek and jaw, and I don't want that stuff done to my face. Oh, yeah. Bless your heart. Absolutely. I'm due scans too. And my other the oncologist that I've had for 100 years, it feels like she's also my mother's oncologist and Mark's oncologist. So she's kind of like a family thing with us at this point. But anyway, she knew how I am, and so she would just, like, schedule those scans, and they would just call me and say, "Hey, you got a scan scheduled for, next Tuesday or Thursday," or, whatever, and I'd be like, "Alright," I'd do it, but this one is like, "Oh, I'm just gonna let you schedule out at your convenience, just do it by such and such." Yeah, I am procrastinating terribly, and I won't. I She wants them done this month, so I'm gonna call and set those up, but yeah. Leave it up to me, and I'm gonna procrastinate, so I'll have to tell her that just to be honest, because it's only gonna get worse. The more that I have clear scans, the more I'm gonna be like, "Oh, it's probably fine if I go, another month," right? Or an extra month or an extra 2 months or whatever, so yeah, not good. But anyway, I really hope that your scans are good when you have those, Cindy, and you'll have to keep us posted, please. We really do care. We really, really do care. So, Live to Laugh is here. Marilee, Ben, Heat, Jersey's in the back. She can be starring some comments and questions if we need them. And let's see here. I thought I saw somebody else, but I can't remember. Corvette Girl is here. Good to see you too. Um, okay. Before I get started, I was going to tell y'all. I put a deal in my posts, a little announcement kind of thing in the post. But if you didn't see that, I am going to start like this. It's like a series, so I'm going to do more than one show about it. But I'm naming it "Am I the Butt Nugget?" You know. So what it's going to be is I'm going to get these letters, either some that I have to go harvest from some other accounts, like Reddit or Facebook or something, or if you all wanna send them to me, that's even better. Um, and we're gonna read them all, distinguishing, names and all that will be removed. Names can be changed, whatever. Um, and of course you can do that too. But anyway, we're going to read them and react to them, as I'm gonna have a couple people on the screen with me, and so I'm looking for people to do that too. And the chat can interact too, and I think it would just be kind of a fun thing. I really get a kick out of reading those and seeing what some of the people say in the comments and everything, and I thought, "You know what? We could do that." So I've really been researching it and trying to find places that I can, you know, use some of those. And But then I thought, well, also, if anybody wants to send them to me, you can email them to me, and I promise you will remain anonymous. I will go to my grave with the secret of who you are. So please, if y'all feel so inclined, please do that and send them in to us. And also, if you would like to be on screen to do some of the reacting to them, let me know too. Message me on Facebook or send me an email. The email is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to do more than one, so I'm going to need people, that can either be available for one show or multi shows, or maybe you can't this one but you can that one, whatever. So I just need to know people that would be interested, and then I can contact them and say, "Okay, are you available on this day, such and such?" So it's also going to depend on how often I get enough letters to react to. So anyway, and I am wanting to keep those very PG-13, so I won't be reading any that have anything that's, you know, too crazy. So, anyway, thank you all for being here. I think that's all of the business of the day, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Um, so, as a lot of y'all know, I have a couple of notes, but mainly I'm not gonna need them. As y'all do know, I, um did a live yesterday that I was really, talking a lot about what I think is wrong with, or, what is being done wrong with the anti Scientology movement, specifically a couple of people. But, I thought about it for a long time last night, and I thought, if somebody watches just one video of mine, I don't want that to be the video that they think, "Oh, well, it's just drama and I don't want any part of it." Because that's not it. That's what's wrong with the movement. But so today, I'm not necessarily gonna talk about what's right with the movement, but I'm going to talk about why we fight this movement. And I really thought that that would be good because I am constantly getting questioned by my fellow Christians in my quote unquote real life. Why are you so bothered by it? You've never been in a cult. What's it matter to you? Or why are you picking on them? People have freedom of religion, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to speak to them specifically, but also even people that aren't Christians or that aren't in my real life, even like some of my regular viewers on here that really don't know all that much about Scientology. I thought, well, maybe if I just hit some high points, there's no way, absolutely no way I could hit all of the reasons. But I thought, if I just kind of condensed it and did a few, and then maybe later, like one a week or something, I could talk about one specific thing and really dive deep into that one specific thing. Because I'm trying to figure out ways that I can, of course, do all the other content that I want to do that's fun or educational or just uplifting, because the uplifting stuff is what I love. And I'm trying to get um, interviews scheduled so that we can just listen and learn about each other's lives. But also, I will always want to cover Scientology, but I want to do it in a way that's me. And that's hard when you're what they call a never end because you don't have your story to fall back on. You have to tell somebody else's story or, dig and find information out about something. And so I've really kind of felt overwhelmed with it because there's just so much to tell. So I thought, okay, what if I told kind of a quick overview of not all, some of the things that I think people need to know. And then once a week, dig deep. Maybe once a week, maybe I will talk about the disconnection policy. Maybe that's what I'll talk about that day. Maybe another time, I'll talk about the forced abortions, that kind of thing. But, if we just I think I will be less overwhelmed if I can kind of get this done, and then I'll have one place where I can say, "Go look at this specific video, and then come back and watch these others." I think that might be a good way, and I put a deal on my Facebook. saying, "Please go watch this," but I don't know if they will or not. Because I mean, I've been almost 2 years, and there's probably 5 of my real world friends or family that watch my videos. And one of them is Veta, who's 9, and she's only allowed to watch what she's allowed to watch. So, and, I don't let her we don't let her watch the spicier ones or whatever. So, yeah. Mark doesn't even watch them. If he's not sitting in the chair, which he's not right now, if he's not sitting in the chair, he generally doesn't watch them either. So, he will every once in a while, and he does if Veta's on, of course. So, anyway, so I basically that's where this is coming from. And, I what I really wanna do is I really wanna go back to kind of ignoring the BS like I, went so far into yesterday, and I wanna start concentrating on what is right and what is good about fighting this cult. And so that's kinda where I'm coming from. I just kinda wanna jump into that and then take one item at a time. So, again, today I am speaking directly to either my Christian friends and family who just don't get it, or my viewers or new viewers, anybody out there that maybe just doesn't know why we fight the cult, and especially those of us that aren't ex members. Then, I'm hoping that this will kind of help fill in those blanks. So, anyway, I do want to add also that I, in no way, and I don't know of anybody that does feel this way. We do not feel that the average Scientologist is the enemy. They're victims. They're victims too. Even if they are doing bad things in the cult, they're like a victim and a perpetrator at the same time, but they are victims. And we hope to get them out and get other people out to where the victimization and all of that just stops because it's horrible. It is horrible. There's a lot of very, very smart people that cover cults professionally, not on YouTube, as a profession. And they agree that the cult of Scientology is literally the most difficult cult to get out of and to get over. And so I think that we need to remember that if these people that they make their life's mission, they get paid, you know, that's how they make their living is doing nothing but studying cults. And if they think Scientology is bad, then I think that we all need to pay attention. So, anyway, all we want to do, y'all, is get anybody that's in this stupid cult. We want to get them out and we want to prevent anyone from getting in. And I want to, while I'm doing this live, I want to welcome the chat. And then later on the replay, if you're watching the replay in the comments, please add anything that, any questions you might have or any comments. And, I will try to get those answered if I don't know, because I am not, all knowing Susie. I don't know it all, but I know people that do know it and I can find out for you. And so, leave us those comments or those chats or whatever, please. And if you would put a Q in front of a question, that makes it stand out, makes it a whole lot easier for Jan to identify it as a question and to know that we need to answer it. So I really appreciate that. If you are a regular viewer, you'd already know that we don't only talk about the Church of Scientology, but it is a very conscious choice that I have made to not just talk about them. And I don't know if people really realize that. But my real reason for not covering them every single day, like I was for a year, a little over actually, is that if all I'm doing is researching them and then watching other Scientology content, that is giving them an awful lot of control over my life and over my thoughts and actions and everything. And I don't want that. Just like I understand when when ex Scientologists don't go live every day and talk about Scientology, Scientology, Scientology every day. I get it. Or when they need breaks, I get it. Because if you are just doing nothing but concentrating on that, it's like you're still in the cult because they still have so much control over your thoughts and your time. So I absolutely get it. And I have made an absolute conscious decision to not cover them as much. Now, if something big happens, I might cover them every day for a week or two or whatever. But that's not going to be the norm. So, anyway, I see you, Erica. Good to see you here. And you're right. It does. It leads to burnout. You got to back away every so often. You absolutely do. So, anyway, while I have made the decision to not focus entirely on Scientology, that doesn't mean that I'm any less determined to fight them. And today is like that jumping off part, right? Where I'm going to kind of jump into this for people that maybe don't know. And kind of start at the beginning a little bit. I don't know, maybe that's a good thing every couple of years to kind of start new and because Lord knows we're not ever going to run out of stories to tell. It's horrible. So anyway, I appreciate you here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I did make some um, slides just because I think that makes it handy for people to kind of follow along with what I'm not necessarily what I'm saying. They're basically going to be something to kind of lead me where I'm going. But I don't know. I kind of thought that maybe they were appropriate. I've got some that I'm going to go through and then I'll have to go load, I think, 3 or 4 more that wouldn't fit. So, anyway, let's go ahead and start looking at those. And let's see here. Okay. So, this is what I think is so important for people to know that the Church of Scientology is not simply just a different denomination. It is a high control organization that dictates what members read, who they're allowed to speak to, whether they can seek mental health care, and whether they're allowed to even remain connected to their own families. This is not spiritual guidance. This is control. So, by this, what I'm saying is to my friends and family who say everybody has a right to their own religion, you're right, they do. But this is control packaged as a religion so that they can get a tax status, a tax free status. That's all it is. You know, L. Ron Hubbard literally said that you don't make any money writing science fiction books, that if you want to get rich, to start a religion. And then, guess what he did? He started a religion. So this in itself tells you why I'm fighting them. But that's not all. Isn't that what they do on some of those commercials? But that's not all. So I do want to go forward from there, right? So sorry, I can't even talk. Christian clarity, this is not compatible with Christianity. Scientology is not in any way compatible with Christianity, and they will lie to you in the beginning and tell you that you can be both a Scientologist and a Christian. But it's just a lie. And by the time you find out that it's not true, they've already sunk their claws into you. They've already, they've gotcha. Gotcha. What is it? Hook, line, and sinker. So Scientology does not believe in grace. They don't believe in salvation through Jesus Christ. They don't believe in forgiveness, repentance, or God. That's right. They actually, let me go down this list. So they don't believe in salvation through Christ because it gets a little confusing there because they at once kind of don't believe in Christ. Well, they don't believe in him as the Son of God. They believe that he existed. Okay. But L. Ron Hubbard himself said that Jesus was a pedophile who touched little boys. Does that sound compatible with Christianity? I don't think so. It's also weird because pretty sure Jesus was one of the many people, including Buddha, that L. Ron Hubbard said that he had once been, because he's had all these reincarnations. So does that mean that L. Ron Hubbard was a pedophile who touched little boys? If he's saying he was Jesus, which I don't believe for a minute, but I'm just saying, follow the logic because it's not there. Grace. They don't believe in grace. They don't believe in forgiveness. They don't believe in any of those things. They don't believe in repentance. Not like how we do. Oh, they want you to repent for every sin you've ever committed. Even if that is 10,000 lives back, you have to repent for them all. And you have to pay anywhere from $300 and up an hour to sit and do that for hours and hours. We're not talking, like you go into counseling for an hour. No, this can be 8, 10, 12 hours a day for weeks, every month, every year, for years, for decades. You're paying all this money. Now we know why I have a shirt that says I am not rich enough to be a Scientologist. So they do not believe in a personal God. As we see, we have a God that we have a personal relationship with. And honestly, whether you believe in that or not, I'm not judging that. This is strictly, I'm just trying to say why this is not a religion. Why my Christian brothers and sisters need to be careful. Okay? They believe that in our own ways that we are all gods. Every one of us. I won't go into all of that because I'm going to go into it very deep diving on a future show. But yeah, they don't believe in God. They don't believe in Him. So, salvation in Scientology is achieved through paid auditing and spiritual ranking. In other words, salvation is purchased, not given. Christians should not confuse politeness with compassion. They are not compassionate. They do not have empathy. They don't want to be compassionate. They do not want to have empathy. They train it right out of them. Right out of them. And we're going to talk about this how, having to purchase salvation and the paid auditing and all that. We'll talk about that some too. So let's see this next one. The Sea Org, where allegations turn shocking. Okay. So the Sea Organization is Scientology's elite workforce, kind of their highest ranking clergy. Kind of. It's the closest I can get. So, anyway, their members, who are sometimes 12, in the past they've been younger than that. But yeah, even 12-year-olds, they sign billion-year contracts. They work extreme hours and live under harsh discipline. And one of my dogs growling, the little one. So anyway, so what does that mean? Well, first of all, billion-year contracts, yeah, they promise that they are going to devote lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to Scientology. And the working extreme hours, absolutely. We're talking 100 and more hours a week, plus training to learn how to be a good little Scientologist. And they live under horrific standards. 3 and 4 high bunk beds with, sleeping 15, sometimes more to a room, very cramped quarters, nowhere really to keep anything, sharing a bathroom with many, many other Sea Org members. Oh, and they do get paid for that 100 or more hours a week if there's money in the coffers to do it, meaning if, that particular org made a profit that week, which a lot of times they don't, conveniently. But you know what they get paid? $47 a week. $47 for 100 hours. How do they get away with it? They call it, it's almost like it's a stipend because they don't qualify or they don't say that they are actual employees. They call them religious volunteers. So, yeah, that's how they get away with that. So, all these people running around in these little sort of navy looking uniforms, these young kids that are, talking to our kids and trying to drag them in there for a free movie. The movie, by the way, is a Scientology thing, which just is like a recruitment tool. But yeah, they're very good at putting the very cutest, friendliest little Scientologists out there to try to lure our kids in. So, and then, kids will be kids. Anyway, pregnancy is absolutely, it says was, but it is absolutely to this day still forbidden in the Sea Org. Marriage isn't. Marriage is not forbidden. So what happens if somebody, married or not, mind you, married or not, in the Sea Org falls pregnant? Well, once a week, Scientology fills up a van with wayward pregnant Sea Org members and hauls them to the abortion clinic. I don't know of another religion that literally hauls their highest ranking clergy to an abortion clinic, literally on a weekly basis. It's crazy. Sorry, my nose is itching. So, yeah, women are absolutely pressured and coerced into abortions, and that is not a rumor. I know people. I absolutely know people that were coerced into having abortions. So if you're like, Susie, that's just like something that people have said. No, I know these people personally. If they choose to not have the abortion, it could mean expulsion and loss of your family because you are then what they call a suppressive person if you get expelled from Scientology. They then make any of your friends, family, even if it's other children, your spouse, anybody that stays in Scientology, and a lot of them do, they make them completely disconnect from you, no matter that you were the highest clergy until you refuse to get an abortion. Doesn't matter. They boot your ass out and everybody forgets that you're alive. So if you're sitting out there and you're watching this and you are pro-life, this should stop you cold. It should stop you absolutely in your tracks and make you wonder, what kind of religion does that? And you won't find the answer because they are not a religion. They are a cult. Now, I'm going to jump over to a little bit of a legal situation. Operation Snow White. Now, this is not an allegation at all, but they like to call it that. It's facts. Look it up. Google it. Chat GPT it. Whatever you want. You're going to figure out that I'm telling the truth, and I am not even telling half of the story. I promise. I have, and I will again. But in the 1970s, Scientology carried out Operation Snow White. This was the largest infiltration of the US government in history, and it still is. Absolutely. Can you believe that? That the largest infiltration of the US government was done by a church. Over 5,000 documents were stolen. Federal agencies were infiltrated. 11 high ranking Scientologists were convicted, including the founder's wife. L. Ron Hubbard's wife went to prison. She got out fairly quickly, but she went to prison for infiltrating the US government. This is not an opinion. This is court proven history. And it's a fascinating story. You should really go look into it. Watch my video on it or watch other people's videos on it. It's fascinating. And it is absolute. I mean, I'm like, okay, move on, Susie, go to the next slide. But I'm telling you, this is unreal. It is crazy. And that was before they got their tax exemption. We, as a country, gave them a tax exemption after they infiltrated our government in the biggest, largest infiltration of the US government in history, even to this day. And they are tax free. Let's see. Reporting crime is discouraged. Scientology policy teaches that law enforcement, psychiatry, and mental health professionals are the enemy. They are like the Antichrist, basically. They are like the worst enemy that could ever be an enemy. So, they're worse than Satan. They're worse. I don't know. They're they believe that psychiatrists, they put you into a hypnotic state so that they can rape and kill you. Now, I don't know how they explain all these people that have been to psychiatrists who have neither been raped nor killed, but that's what they say. So, anyway, members are pressured to keep serious crimes inside the church. Let the church handle it. Only they don't. They don't handle it. A church member, a child, or even if they're now an adult, tells that they were sexually assaulted by either an adult, a parent, another, child, and whatever. The person that did the raping, they don't get in trouble. Guess who gets in trouble? The one that reported it. Whenever we're talking about parents molesting their children, I know of at least one case, and I know there's more, but I can, top of my head, think of at least one case where not only was nothing done about it, but the child was taken away from the mother who was innocent and sent to another country to live, sent with the father to live with the father who was the one doing the molesting. And then it was brushed under the rug like it never happened. Her name's Miriam Francis, and you can find her story on YouTube. It's there. And there are plenty others. Christians believe wrongdoings should be brought into the light. Scientology teaches that exposure is the enemy. Not only is exposure the enemy, but they're not going to do anything about it anyway. So what happens is that they don't. That's why it took so long for Danny Masterson to be tried and convicted and sentenced to at least 30 years for molesting, violently raping 2 women, and plenty more testified against him as well. Scientology knew, and they covered it up. And the women finally, when they get out of Scientology, they went to the authorities because Scientology had not done a damn thing to help them. They had just covered it up. And it's worse if they're covering it up for a celebrity. I'm sure they're even more diligent about covering it up. So, families are deliberately broken apart. Scientology enforces a policy called disconnection. I talked about that for just a minute a while ago. Members are required to cut off contact with spouses, parents, children, lifelong friends. Jesus restored families. Most churches want to restore families and protect families unless there's absolutely some kind of reason, that should not happen. But Scientology uses your family as leverage. It keeps you in the church cult because you don't want to risk leaving because you will lose your family. Like if Mark and I were in Scientology and I wanted to leave, I couldn't even tell him that I wanted to leave because he would run snitch on me. They have a snitch, you know, thing, policy, whatever. It's their thing. If they had found out that I wanted to leave and he knew and he didn't tell on me, he would be in trouble. And we will go into a whole bunch about what that means at a later date. But yeah, so like if I wanted to leave and he didn't, he would completely disconnect from me, divorce me, ignore me. If our children, our grandchildren, my parents, friends, everything, any of those kind of people were in Scientology, they would too. And so I would be kicked out with nowhere to go, nobody to help me, nothing. And that's how they keep people in. Once they get you in there, and then you get more people in there, because that's how we do, right? Even if we go to a church, then suddenly the whole family's going to that church. It's the same thing with Scientology. But with them, you lose contact with everybody that's not a Scientologist. Your doctors are Scientologists, your eye doctor, your lawyer, everybody that you deal with, your person that does your hair, everybody is a Scientologist. So if you leave, you're leaving all that behind because nobody will acknowledge that you exist. You are dead to them. My dog's gonna bark, sorry. Mental health is forbidden. Should say mental health care, but even just mental health in general. If you have got a problem, no, you don't. You don't. That's just you just think you do. Just go do some more auditing, pay some more money, you know. Do this other class, it'll fix it. Scientology teaches that psychology and psychiatry are evil, not just wrong, absolute evil. Again, think, the Antichrist, Satan, I don't know, the most horrible of horrible. Members are discouraged, even forbidden, from therapy, psychiatric medication, any kind of evidence based medical health care. None of that. Even in crisis, even if you are having a psychotic break, no. Christians believe in healing. Scientology denies people help. I could tell you deeply troubling stories. Go look at some of or even just look it up, but go watch my videos. Google Lisa McPherson. Go look that up. See how it works for them. So here's this one, and then I'm going to have to go get more. Public image versus private reality. What the public sees is polished, friendly, even welcoming. But what former members describe is fear, punishment, silence, and control. When survivors across decades tell the same story independently, Christians should listen. Absolutely. You should listen. We should all listen. I just, if hundreds of people have the exact same experiences, I mean, with different people, it's not like this one person did this. No, it can be uniformly around the entire church. This is what has happened. Why aren't we listening? Now, I'm going to dump some of these off of here and go get I think it's 3 that I've got to go, but I hope that this so far has given you a little bit to think about. And again, if you've got any questions and you're in the chat or you're watching on the replay, please ask them. If you've got comments, if you think that there is something that I am forgetting, please add that too. You're not going to make me feel bad. I promise. So, okay, let me grab, I got rid of those. Let me grab, I think there might be 4. I'm going to grab them really quick and we will go forward. So, and if you are new to the channel, I do want to welcome you and just tell you that we try to really keep this as a safe place to talk about hard topics. And so we will be talking about a lot of other topics. We always do. Just go back and look on the list on my channel, look at lives or look at videos, and you're going to see a lot of different things that we talk about all the time. So if this one is not, the one for you, or you already know this, please go look at some of the others. If you see something that I mentioned that you think, I want to know more about that, go look at that. Go, punch in SPTV and go look at some of the people on there. There's a lot of good information on there, a lot. Aaron Smith Levin's Growing Up in Scientology is good. Marilyn Honig has a good channel. What is it? Oh, Natalie Webster's. I can't remember what hers is called. But anyway, there's a lot. There's a lot. If you just go look up SPTV, then you're gonna find a lot of good information from people that were actually there. I am what they call a never in. I was never in. So I'm telling their stories, but they can tell their stories too. Okay. Now, the money question, right? Advancement in Scientology requires constant payment. Many former members report spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of dollars. Grace is free. Scientology sends an invoice. Actually, they don't. Actually, you have to pay in advance. So, and another thing, all those, because this has to do with money. I should have put this on there. All those Sea Org members that are doing all that 100+ hours of work, they're cleaning toilets with toothbrushes and floors with toothbrushes, and they get in trouble, and so David Miscavige comes around and makes them lick the bathroom floor, that kind of stuff. And they do this crap for 100 hours a week for their entire lifetime, because there are people in their 80s who are Sea Org members still working those kind of hours. But anyway, what happens if one of those Sea Org members leaves? They get what they are calling a freeloader's debt, which is actually a bill for all of the classes that they took while they were in the Sea Org. Because when they're in there, they don't have to pay the hundreds of dollars to take those classes. But if they leave, they get a bill saying, here's, thousands of dollars that you owe us. And a lot of these people are so scared and so brainwashed, and they want to, what they call, route out the right way, so that they can maybe still keep in contact with their family. So they pay it. They find some way to pay it, even though it's not legally binding. So, yeah, if you think that it's not about the money, think again. That's all it's about. So, yeah, what religion? I know, I don't want to hear it. Those collection plates go around and they like to collect that 10%. But are you forced to pay it? No. Encouraged, maybe, but certainly not, forced. I don't know. It's just sick. Okay. Fair game, and which is attack the critic. Scientology's founder taught that critics could be treated as fair game. That meant that any Scientologist could do these things to anybody that criticizes the church, whether it's somebody that was once a member of the church and got out, or if it was like me. Okay. I would be considered an SP, a suppressive person, a person that can be, eligible for fair game. And that means harassment, surveillance, smear campaigns, and legal intimidation. While the wording has changed, they try to say that they're not doing it. People that have gotten out just recently and are still being harassed and surveilled and everything else tell you it is absolutely still going on. Absolutely. They will spend thousands, millions of dollars paying private investigators just to follow somebody around. Why? It's intimidation. That's all it is. I mean, like, what else could it be whenever it's like somebody, let's say, that, is okay, if like they're not, but if they were doing it to me, if they were following me around, that would feel intimidating to me. They would be bored because I never go anywhere, but let's just pretend like I do go places. And but they would be doing it to intimidate me because anything that I do to speak out against the church, I'm doing right here on this laptop. I'm not doing it out there. They don't have to follow me around to see if I'm doing it. I do it right here. Every time I hit live, it is in some sort of protest against them. I might not be talking about them, but you can bet it'll come up. And, they could do that. We've had our bank account gotten into, we've had credit card issues and everything. And I absolutely believe that that is Scientology. It was really funny one night. Scientology called me. It showed up on my caller ID and they hung up. I think it was some kind of, mistake. They didn't mean for it to show up or whatever. Because if they were really trying to call me, first of all, where the hell did they get my number? But second of all, if they were trying to call me, why would they hang up? Other than, I was getting a lot of just hang up calls, constant hang up calls and stuff. But that one, it actually said I don't remember how it was worded now. It's been several months ago. But anyway, it actually said Scientology on it. So, yeah. They will smear people. They will, accuse you of child molestation. They will, sue you for the stupidest stuff and just drag it out and drag it out and drag it out. They will go through your garbage, everything. Imagine being somebody fresh out of this cult, and that's what they're having to deal with. On top of everything else that they're trying to rebuild their lives. And then they still believe that getting psychiatric help is dangerous and bad because it takes a while. You don't just stop believing everything that you've been told your entire life because you got out. So they're doing all this, and you are probably starting to question your own sanity, but you're not going to go get any help. You wouldn't believe the number of young people who have unalived themselves because of Scientology. What religion has multiple people doing that in horrific ways? I'm not talking, pills. I'm talking light yourself on fire. That doesn't work, so I shoot myself in the head. Jump from a tall building. Electrocute myself. Those kind of things. Leaving comes with a cost. People who leave often report losing contact with all their family, harassment, stalking, smear campaigns, and relentless legal threats. Kind of goes along with the last one, but I really want to back it up. Leaving should be a choice. In Scientology, it is treated like a betrayal. I saw a sign on one of the protesters that said, and I'm going to get it wrong, but pretty much that the difference between a cult and a religion is what happens when you try to leave. And even though I probably didn't word that exact, I think you get it. Now, this is my last one, and then I'm going to check in with the chat. Why all of this matters. I'm hoping that I don't even need to do this one, because I'm hoping that if you didn't know anything about Scientology before, that you're sitting there like, oh my God. And if you did, that you're like, yep, she's right. She should have told you X, Y, and Z too. But why does this matter? You do not have to hate Scientologists to say the system is dangerous. I don't hate any of the people, the normal people in Scientology. They're victims. The bad guy, first of all, was L. Ron Hubbard, who came up with this crazy ass thing, but is David Miscavige. Y'all should really go watch Jenna Miscavige's videos. Hers are short and to the point and dead on. She is the niece of David Miscavige, and she escaped Scientology when she was 22. She had been in her entire life. She was born into it. There's also Liz Gale, who's a third generation ex Scientologist. And when she left, she lost her entire family, and she ended up losing her family property. Her brother, her absolute prodigy, genius brother, jumped from a, I don't remember, 13th floor or something of his college. He was, I won't even go into everything he was because I will get it wrong. You cannot believe how smart he was and how just brilliant he was. And he did that on L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. You do not have to abandon kindness to draw moral boundaries. And I think that as Christians, as non-Christians, Christianity is not the, thing that makes you have morality. We all do, right? And it is time to draw some moral boundaries, guys. We have got to start fighting against them. We have got to start contacting our representatives. And this is not a political thing. I don't care if you are the most Republican or the most Democrat or liberal Democrat. I don't care. This isn't about that. This is about human decency and humanity and criminals. These are criminals. This is like a mob. This is a criminal enterprise disguised as a church. And we have got to stop letting that be okay. Even people like my friends and family, who are a lot of in Oklahoma, where we don't have an org. But guess what? We have that, what is it? Arcanon. Guess what that is, guys? Scientology. They've already got that. They've got several orgs in the states surrounding us. What's waiting? What's holding them back? They'll be here before you know it. And they're all over the world. So even if they're not on your back door, they're on somebody's back door, and we need to start caring about it. We need to draw moral boundaries and say no. And if that means, if all we accomplish is getting rid of their tax exemption, that'll probably put them out of business. because they are dwindling. They will say they have millions of members. They have like 25,000 members, but their members believe they have tens of millions. They wouldn't be that hard to defeat if we would just get off our asses and do it. You are not honoring Christ by staying silent about abuse, coercion, or exploitation. You're not honoring Christ by leaving them alone because they're dressed up like a church. You're not. We will fight tooth and nail against opposing political parties. Both parties do it. I'm not bad mouthing anybody, I'm bad mouthing everybody. But we won't take a stand across party lines, across religious denominations, across all of that, and say, no, you're not going to call yourself a church while you are doing these things. We've got to stop just like saying, well, it's a church. Oh, they have religious freedom. No, it's not a religion. They do not have any kind of services. They do not have any kind of Bible or that kind of thing. All they do is read his crazy ramblings. Do you know how he spent the last like 6 years of his life, this religious leader? In hiding from the federal government, drawing dick pictures. Just little doodles of dicks. Yeah, dicks, as in penises. They don't know that. The members, they don't know that. They have to like hip hip hooray and clap several times a day if they're near a picture of him. Have you ever hip hip hoorayed and clapped because you saw a picture of Jesus? Not anywhere I've been. Protecting people is not persecution. Truth is not hate. And silence helps abusers, not victims. If you would just remember that one line, silence helps abusers, not victims, then the whole hour and 2 minutes that I've talked will be worth it. So I'm going to check in. I've got some starred comments. I am going to check those real quick and just see what everybody's talking about. Whoops, if I hit the right button. Heat My Short says, I didn't even know what Scientology was a year ago. I was raised in a Catholic family, so this should be a very interesting one. I hope so. And I hope that, I hope I said something that you didn't know or that you had forgotten or that you understand more now. Because I know that I have mods that they don't really know much about Scientology just because, I have friends from other communities and, everything. And so, and the majority of my real world friends still don't know. Still don't know. And whenever I say, come watch my show, it's going to be a good one. This is going to be a great live. It'll explain it. They're like, oh, I don't really do YouTube or whatever. So I'm hoping I put an invite on my Facebook page and I am hoping some people will come and watch it. Definite trouble source. LRH never wrote about love. They don't believe, in acknowledging love. Isn't that weird? Yeah. You're taught that there's nothing that you could do in this lifetime that you haven't done millions of times. So, why are you so worried about that kid? You've had kids, thousands of kids before. You'll have thousands more. Why worry about, staying loyal to that husband or whatever? You've had all these other husbands or wives or whatever before. You'll have more. Everything is just like disposable, and it is, Erica, it's just weird, right? It is just weird. I mean, and of course, many of these Scientologists absolutely do fall in love, feel love for their children, and all that, because that is human nature. But let me tell you, Scientology does everything that they can to train it out of you. Indigo says, not that goldenrod paper notice. Man, it's all messed up. Disconnection is horrible. Yeah. Yeah, if you get disconnected from, supposedly, it doesn't always happen, but supposedly you're going to get a piece of paper that's a goldenrod color. That's why I use a lot of that color on stuff when I'm talking about Scientology. I'll use that like behind the, on the whatever, on the stuff that I post or whatever, just because that's what they do. They use, if you get one of those letters, you know you're in trouble, right? It is horrible. Erica says, you can get Bibles for free online, any or all versions you want. Yep. You can tithe or donate, but you don't have to. And you can go for free every Sunday or whatever day, right? Not in Scientology. You better be packing a heavy wallet every time you walk in that door. Every time. Fair game. Yep. Always attack, never defend. Absolutely. They preach that to them. Preach it as in hammer it in, not preach like from a pulpit, you know? But yeah, always attack, never defend. You are supposed to attack everybody. You do not defend yourself or anybody else. It is all just attack, 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 attack. But fair game is pretty defensive. Absolutely. Shakespeare, I can't even say the word. Shakespeare said, "Thou protesteth too much." Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Cliff Ann, good to see you. I refuse to pay a church. I will buy things for kids, help others in need. I could care less if the church pays thousands in utilities. You don't need a church. Preachers preach what they believe. Yeah, that's a lot of it. And that is a lot of why I'm having a hard time with um, organized religion right now, is because um, there is just so much interpretation of the Bible. And so while I absolutely do consider myself a Christian and I do believe in God and Christ and all of those things, I know there are good churches out there, but I also know there are bad ones. So So he wants to know, what is a third generation ex Scientologist? Does that mean their grandparents got away from it? No, that means that their grandparents got into it. So, like, if my grandparents got into Scientology, which they didn't, but I'm just saying, like, if my grandparents got into it, and then like, say, my mom's parents, okay, and then my mom was born to those parents, so she would be the second generation, and then I was born into it, I would be the third generation. So, like, Liz Gale, for instance, her grandmother got into it, and then I think the step grandfather, I think, I might get that wrong, but anyway, so the grandparents were in it, her mom and siblings was born into it, so was her dad and whoever, and and then they had Liz and her brother, and so she's third. She said that there are even some fourth generation Scientologists where, even further back, even like a great great grandparent got into it, because this was started in the 50s. And so, depending on if people were young when they had children, you could absolutely have several generations by now. So, but yeah. And a lot of times it is these last generations, like these, second or third generations, are the ones that get out. The others never do. Um, a lot of that is because they were in when it was L. Ron Hubbard was in, and as bad as he was, I guess he wasn't quite as just horrible as Miscavige is. So, anyways, Cindy says, Susie, I have to bounce. Always great to see you. Great to see you too. My last thought, there are several books by many who have escaped. They are all valid stories and you can learn a lot. See you next time. See you next time too, Cindy. It's always, always, always good to see you. She makes a very valid point. If you go on Google or Amazon or whatever and you just look up ex Scientology books, you are going to find tons of them. Tons of them. My very favorite one, still to this day, just remains Jenna Miscavige's book because I like the way that she just talks like she's talking to a friend. It's not quite as technical, but there are others, and you really can't go wrong. I don't really know how you could go wrong by reading any of them. I have several. If you are local to me and want to read some, let me know. I will loan somebody a book, I promise. If I've still got it. I have actually given away some or loaned them out and not got them back. So, but that's okay. That's okay. So, let's see here. Erica says I always clarify my sign. Nobody likes Scientology with I love Scientologists. Yeah. But the organization is a problem. The OTs walk away when I respond and say, what is there to say? Yeah, I know. I have seen like say, can you tell me something about your religion? And they will not. For a religion that says that they spend all this time learning how to talk to anyone about anything and, combating any issues and, fixing everything. Tom Cruise, said that when he drives past an accident on the road that he knows that, he as a Scientologist is the only one that can fix it, can help those people. And I'm like, I have never heard of him bailing his ass out of his car or off of his motorcycle to help a damn soul. But he thinks he's the only one. So I guess any accident where he has passed, those people had to have just died because Tom did not bail out and help them. So, yeah, but they won't. If you ask them questions, they will not tell you anything. They are told if you ask them what is Scientology to say to read a book. Cliff Fan says, we were burned by a preacher. Some churches are stupid big. It just gets me that you can take 10 preachers, each seeing something different in the scripture. Yeah, you have to do your own research. I agree. I have read the Bible front to back multiple times. I generally, honestly, will find something different every time I read it, but it doesn't mean something different. Do you know what I mean? Like something will stand out to me more, like something will mean more to me in a different setting or something. But it's all still means the same thing every time. It's just that it becomes more important to me, I guess, at different times. I don't know. Yeah. Here you go, Ben. This is narking on the worst kind of quackery. People are dying there. They're dying. They don't get them any kind of counseling. They don't give them any kind of medications to help them get off of the drugs. They just kind of gotta, you know, grit your teeth and bear it. And that can be deadly. Deadly. And people die. Erica says a religion has a deity and worship and prayer follow. Any other group is a club or an organization, not a religion. They call them the Scientology org. I mean, yeah, it's the Church of Scientology, but all of those little buildings and our huge buildings are orgs, as in organizations. Okay, they can get tax exemption in other ways, but they wouldn't get the perk of religious arbitration if they didn't lie about being a church. And this is why I really, really, really want to do an interview with Erica because I said the other day, I said, every time I talk to her or she's, in the chat or anything, I feel smarter. I feel smarter just being around her. Ben says, we are meant to have a tribe of less than 100 people. I don't see how a pastor of a megachurch can even know who is in his church if it's that huge. Absolutely. I believe that too. I really do. I think it would be very difficult to really get to know your parishioners, and I think that that's a lot of why some people prefer those mega churches because, it's also not fun when you're sitting in a smaller church that, has got maybe 300 people or something, and all those people don't show up all the time. But everybody in that church building knows all your business. And so sometimes I think people want to go to those mega churches just to get away from that. But I mean, even we have talked about that because we were so, involved in the churches that we've been in. And it's like, well, maybe if we went to one of those mega churches, we could just go listen to the sermon and sing and, whatever, and then leave. But I want that relationship. If I'm going to go to church, I want to have that relationship with the people. But I just have a hard time with what's interpretation, and we all do that, right? I'm not even saying that they do it for nefarious reasons. It's just human nature. We all do that. So, of course, some do it for nefarious reasons. But anyway, thank you guys. I have really enjoyed this one. I hope you did too. I will be back tomorrow. I cannot really decide which one I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm kind of thinking about 2 or 3 different lives, but anyway, I will post that later tonight or in the morning, and I will be back tomorrow at 6:30 Central Time. I love you all and see you then.
Hope you enjoyed the show, so glad you were here. We meet here most days, we're but first coffee and you're welcome here. We talk about hard subjects, but we also laugh a lot. If you have a loss or win, we will cheer for you. We're but first coffee and you are safe here. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't want to miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't want to miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all.